Welcome to the Wellness on Demand podcast, bringing you interviews with health, fitness, and wellness professionals, sharing proven strategies that empower you to lead a healthier life and achieve complete wellness. Here's your host, Garvin Reid.
All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of Wellness on Demand. Today I have with me Helene Haber. Helene is a rapid hypnotherapist, a nutritionist, and a health and wellness coach. Welcome to the show, Helene. Introduce yourself to our listening audience.
Oh, well, I'm happy. I'm so happy to be here, Garvin. So yes, I am all of those things, and I primarily started out not knowing very much about nutrition or health, and it's become my passion. So, and I think as people during this time are home and wondering about what they can do for themselves, it's becoming more of their passion as well.
We're happy to have you here as well. We definitely want to learn more about what you do and about rapid hypnotherapy and how that all works. From what I understand of rapid hypnotherapy, it's great for helping people overcome difficulties in their lives, certain addictions, whether it's smoking cessation, controlling appetite and diet, and a myriad of other addictions that people may struggle with. Can you share a little bit with us about rapid hypnotherapy and how it works?
Sure. Okay. So right about now, people are maybe worried about their weight and they want to lose a couple pounds, and they basically you're consciously, what to eat. Most people know what to eat. They want to eat more greens, more fruit, of course, more water, but they can't do it because what you're trying to do is you're trying to make your change logically. And one of the most important rules of the mind is you can't defeat emotion with logic. So logically, stay away from that stuff and eat better foods. But emotionally, you have ties to it, possibly back to childhood, that make that incredibly difficult. And so what hypnosis does is it excites the mind to be excited about eating better things for you. And the other thing it does is it goes back to the time when you were 2 years old and you fell and you got an ice cream cone. So now you're craving ice cream, you're going through this terrible time, and you're not even sure why. So the thing that it really does nicely, it excites the mind and it opens it up for change, and it makes yourself very clear on what you want to do. So, and the other big thing about hypnotherapy that I love personally is, unlike traditional therapy where you go in and you talk about the same problem and you're like, okay, what happened this week? And then you're going back on the past. You're basically working on things from now to the future. And you're not going every week. It's very fast. It's usually 1 to 3 sessions and you're done.
Okay.
You've basically rewired your mind.
And how does that process all works? Like in terms of rewiring my mind, is it I'm sitting on a couch and you're looking at a ball go back and forth? How does the hypnotherapy all work?
Okay, so what it does in hypnotherapy puts you in a very relaxed state. It puts you in a state that where you're open to suggestions. And it makes your mind very clear. So normally if I would tell you to get a step away from the cigarettes, for example, you'll be like, okay, but you have this association that it relaxes you, that it keeps your weight down. But the hypnotherapy, because you're in such a relaxed state, you're in a very open state for suggestions where you normally wouldn't be. And then what I do, we go back and we see where you first got this connection to, example, smoking makes you cool. Smoking calms me down. In the case of smoking, and we go back and we see, oh, gee, I saw my parents smoking. That's what adults do. Or if I wanted to be, when I got a little bit older, if I wanted to be part of a group, that's what I needed to do. So we go back to the time where you may not even be aware where you've formed that association, and then we put in new thoughts, new aspirations. So it totally wipes away. It reactivates your mind. It rewires your mind. So you want to, get away from the things that no longer serve you and move towards things that better serve you. And it takes place in about an hour and a half to 2 hours. We sit down and see exactly what you want. Then we get you in a hyper relaxed state, go back to see where the issue started. And then you're very clear, this is not you anymore. And you make the distinction between the way you were as a child or a young adult when your brain forms these connections until the person you are now. And then what we do is implant new notions, new things that will truly benefit you. And then what I do is I make a recording so the actual session will start the process and change your behavior. But the 21 days that you listen to the recording, which is required, will totally rewire your mind forever.
Amazing.
So does that make sense?
That definitely makes sense, and I get where you're coming from there. Does it work for everyone, or is it a custom? How does it all work in terms of the individual person? Is it something that you customize to each person's need, or is it a one size fits all? How does that all work?
Of course. Especially when you do the regression to see where you came up with these notions. So someone holding on to weight, you'd be like, well, of course I want pizza. Of course I want ice cream. But maybe other things were going on when they were younger. Very common with women. They might have been abused either physically or sexually. They formed the belief very early on that they needed to be big to defend themselves, or they don't want to be attractive because they don't want to be a target. So again, you cannot look at someone and imagine what they've gone through and what they experienced. And then once again, we go back and we say, that's not who they are anymore. They're not a helpless child. They now have the defenses and the wherewithal to be a totally different person. And that's where we start. And then once again, we put in new suggestions, new way of behaving, so it becomes part of who you are. So it's very individual because everyone has a story. And the more you talk to people, people you think have it all together, people who, you see celebrities and movie stars, you think, oh, they have, their life is perfect. There's nothing wrong. So, you go through all the people who've recently have ended their life for, Marilyn Monroe. I can't think of the name. The beautiful singer in England.
I know.
I love her. Anyway, Robin, people who've really struggled, and you think, oh my goodness, these people have had it all.
Understood.
They don't.
Very fascinating. Just to switch it up a bit, tell us a bit. I know you've been a nutritionist for over 17 years. And among some of the addictions our listening audience suffers with is eating. What advice can you give us around eating, healthier habits for eating? And especially in this time where we are trapped at home, we are the babysitter, we're doing our jobs, we're the housekeeper, we're doing it all. How can we avoid putting on what's been called the COVID-15?
Right. Okay. So, of course, the biggest thing I will tell you is whatever goes on in your home to really, going back to the mind. Okay. Really, one of the biggest rules of the mind is it only responds to the pictures and the words in your head. So if you tell yourself, I can't do this, I've screwed up, I'm always going to screw up, there's no way I'm not going to gain 15 pounds. Well, your mind works really hard, whether it's right or wrong. Your mind is very literal, and it has no sense of humor. So if you tell it, if you're going to put on 15 pounds, you know what? It's going to happen. So be very specific with your mind. You can say things to yourself like, okay, this is a challenging time, but I'm up for a challenge. This is a time that I'm going to take good care of myself. And even though I may not eat perfectly, I'm going to do well by myself. Because whatever you tell your mind, okay, your actions will follow to make that a reality, good or bad. Okay, so, but obviously the biggest thing you want to do is support your immune system, because even if you get this terrible disease, the biggest part is to fight the infection. So you want to eat whole foods. This is nothing new. This is true whether there's a pandemic going on or not, but it's just a nice thing to hear again. You want it to be nutrient dense. You want to cut out as much as you can, doesn't have to eliminate, but as much as you can, the sugar and the refined starches, because they really cause inflammation and make it much harder to fight infection. You want to make sure you're having enough protein, which is generally half your body weight in grams per day. Mm-hmm. Also adding things like, I don't believe there are superfoods, because basically almost all whole foods are good for you, but adding things like garlic and onion and ginger, those are great antimicrobial, spices and vegetables, lots of spices, oregano, turmeric, rosemary, just add it to your meals. Okay. And when you eat, make sure half your plate is a vegetable. Okay. And the dark leafy greens are great. You can have fruit, of course, and then you're going to want a lean protein. And then if you want a multigrain starch, that's fine. A complex starch. But in terms of, keeping off the COVID-19, I feel that vegetables are far more important than fruit. Eat as much. There's something called volumetrics. It's really, really hard to overdo your vegetables. So go for it. Fermented foods are great. Things like sauerkraut, kimchi, all those things. Unsweetened yogurt is nice. Of course, you need to drink plenty of water. And you can also, soups and broths, often, will count as just as well. Better that you have fresh vegetables in them. And you need sleep is hugely underrated. You need to get your sleep in anywhere from 7 to 8 hours. And honestly, no secret, but if you get out and exercise, of course you want to be very careful, especially if you're in New York City, but it's not so much for your weight, it's for your mood. Your whole life goes better because you've exercised that day. Okay. Your immune system will be better, your mood will be better, you'll eat better, you'll sleep better. Okay. And those are nothing new under the sun, but those will make a huge difference. And again, just be kind to yourself, talk to yourself like you're, like your friend would. You never say to your friend, I can't believe you did that. You're such a cow. You're hopeless. Just, I can't, treat yourself at least as good as you would a good friend.
I agree with you 100%, and definitely exercise. I know for me personally, exercise does uplift my mood. I try to go out, like I say, early in the mornings, get a quick run in or a bike ride, but it definitely does change the mood of the day. What are your thoughts? You mentioned fermented foods earlier, and I've been big on this kombucha craze that's going around. What are your thoughts on kombucha?
I think it's great. I just like anything else. Just look, if you're not doing it, are you making it yourself? I'm just curious.
No, I have no idea how to make it. By a particular brand that I like.
Yeah. No, I think it's wonderful. I just say look at just like everything else, because when you look at food, usually like the bigger the letters and the more colorful the packaging, the worse the food is. So turn it over and just read the ingredients, because so many things that, as you know, that are billed as healthy food, you turn it over and you're like, first ingredient is corn syrup. And you're like, are you kidding me? Like, you think you can pull one over us, but because because it looks like a health food. But yes, absolutely. As long as, that you don't have too much, you look at the grams of sugar, you want to keep it usually to under 6 per serving grams. You're good to go. Tell me, do you like, do you notice it has any difference in how you feel?
I mean, I tend to think, and this could be totally the placebo effect, but I feel like the kombucha helps with my digestion. It makes me feel a lot better. In my head, I feel like the kombucha is little positive microbes going through my body and like pulling out all the toxins. So it gives me a better feeling overall. But again, like I said, this could just be a placebo effect.
Well, no, but I love that because basically another huge rule of the mind, going back to hypnotherapy, your mind only responds to two things: to the pictures in your head and the word you tell it. So you've told yourself that this is a good food for you. And, lo and behold, even if it maybe wasn't the best food, your body's going to respond to that as if it was true. So you've heard people who are like, no matter what I eat, I'm going to stay thin, or, whatever even if it's totally illogical, it happens. So this is the other thing that I think is super important. Whatever, say to yourself, I'm a fantastic person. Whatever I do turns into success. All the things you can say to yourself, which actually will get away from any kind of dysfunctional behavior and move you to a more positive level of being.
I actually love that because, like most people, no matter how positive you try to be, there's those times when negative self-talk creeps in and we're our own worst critics. So we tend to be heavier and harder on ourselves than others. And, in the beginning, when I first started my whole process, I used to download apps that would be positive affirmation apps, and it would give me a little ding at a certain point in the day where I would put in the affirmations that I wanted, and then I would just repeat them to myself over and over until I actually saw the change that I was looking for. Sometimes I got further in the change, less. It's all about how much you actually take it seriously and you apply it, right? You got to continuously apply it because every day is a different day and we feel different every day, no matter how much of a positive or a healthy person we are.
No, absolutely. And you're so right, Garvin. It's not one and done. It's not like, okay, I listened to this positive recording. I'm totally, I'm totally changed. It's not that. Even if you have to do it 50 times a day, look in the mirror and, I tell people, tell yourself I'm enough. And even if it takes you 15 minutes, find one thing that you absolutely love about yourself physically, whether it's your eyes, whether it's your smile. Make sure that you're doing that on a regular basis. Telling yourself things, I am worthy, I am enough, I was born enough, and I certainly always will be enough. Those things make a huge difference because when other people praise us, they may have an agenda. Like if your boss says, "Oh, that's a nice, scarf you have on, Helene," and I'll be like, "Well, thank you." But if when I praise myself, I don't have another agenda. That no one's looking to do or get something from me. And I think the more we praise ourselves, let that in, the more positive we feel, and the better off we'll be. Again, that's the most powerful thing that any one person can do. And to your point, on a consistent basis.
I definitely agree with you there. And, like you said, when someone else praises us, it may be flattery, it may be have an agenda. We are the most honest with ourselves, right? Because it's hard. You can try, but it's really hard to lie to yourself. So you have to, find the positive in things that you want to be honest with yourself about and use that as your form of affirmation or praise. And that's the direction that I try to take in my life.
Yeah, well, you've got great energy, so it's coming through.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And the other thing, what you just did was great. Like so many people, especially women, I'll give you say something complimentary, like, "Oh, I love how you threw that I don't know, you threw that meal together. It's nothing. It's
right.
It's terrible. But you let it in, and that's another thing. You got to let it in. You got to let in that positive praise."
I agree with you 100%. You gotta, it's some folks have a difficult time accepting compliments. And like you said, a lot of these things stem from our earlier life or childhood or whatever it may be, where we do have a hard time accepting compliments. But yeah, you definitely got to let that energy come in and take it for what it is on the face of what it is and who's giving it to you.
Right.
And make it work.
Right.
So, given in these times that we're all stuck at home, what are you doing in your own personal world to keep yourself focused, keep busy, keep your energy going?
Okay. I basically do what everybody else is doing. The biggest thing, the biggest non-secret is I get out, whether it's raining, whether, that has served me the best. In New York City last Saturday, I was outside, it was raining. I'm like, okay, fine. And then it snowed and hailed. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. This is May. But I was like, okay, you know what? This is good for me. I'm outside. Thank God I'm healthy. I'm here. So for me, really the biggest thing I can do is get out and get a walk, even if it's not the best, the best conditions outside, but all the other things that people do, that we hear a lot. Stay connected, do something kind for yourself, give yourself a break, eat as best you can. And then of course, I'm doing, I'm also talking to clients. I'm also doing a little bit of extra stuff, but clearly do not beat yourself up if you haven't mastered French or play the piano. This is a time to really be kind and good to yourself as your best friend.
Agreed. Myself, I'm trying to learn or improve my Spanish, and there are good days. There are days when I'm on it and the practice is going and I feel great. I feel like I'm going to master it. And then there are days when, it's not going so well and it's a little rough, and you got to be like, all right, we're going to put this down and we'll pick it up tomorrow. Or
but you're taking the action, and that's huge. Yeah. Thank
you. Quickly, Helene, tell us, how does it work now that, in my head anyways, when I picture hypnotherapy, I picture it as an in-person process. And now that we're all pretty much quarantined at home, are you still able to do it over the air, over Zoom or the internet? What does that look like?
Okay, yeah, that's a really good question. So, the beauty of doing a Zoom call or a teleconference call is that, you reach much more people. So someone could be in New Zealand and I could be working with, which is nice. It is as effective. The only thing is, I sometimes people get so relaxed they start slinking down in their chair, and and then I have to get them back so that I can see. I'm watching them all times to see what's going on with them. But short of that, just like so many other things in this world, which people could never imagine we could do from home. I think a lot of these things are going to stay with us long after this, this terrible disease is gone. So yes, and it seems nutty, but it absolutely works.
I agree with you, and I agree with the fact that, while this was a bad thing that happened to us worldwide, it is going to forever change the way we are in the world, right? The way we interact with each other, the way we work. Now you can have a job in England and live in New York because of the telecommute work from home process, which has gotten a lot more in depth. So yes, this will definitely affect how we interact with each other and how we engage the world. Helene, I was just going to add the other thing, that you're doing naturally that I think is huge. Every day you wake up and just be grateful, come up with even, as you said, the most mundane things like, thank goodness I'm not coughing. I love my sheets. I'm thrilled that it's not, come up with some things you're grateful for, and that sets your day. And so gratefulness is huge. So yeah, which you're starting to, express in what you just said. I agree with you 100%. An attitude of gratitude is very important.
That's great. Yeah.
I didn't make that up, so I'm not coining it, but it's definitely a good way to look at it or phrase it. But yeah, that definitely helps in terms of getting through your day, especially when you're at your most frustrating points or your breaking point, where you've been doing, as a parent, you've been doing the whole school from home thing, and you've been working on it for hours, and now you are truly, truly frustrated. You got to stop and be thankful for the good things and kind of just refocus yourself so that you can get back into it and lose the frustration, which will make the process a lot faster.
Absolutely. And you're naturally grateful. So that's great.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Helene, I wanted to thank you so much for joining us today and joining our listening audience. Can you tell the audience where they can find you if they ever wanted to reach out and learn more about hypnotherapy, connect with a nutritionist or a health coach?
Absolutely. I'd love to. So the easiest way is just to go on my website, helenehaber.com. And and I would love to speak with you and work with you.
Amazing, amazing. Again, Helene, thank you so much for joining us. Guys, until next time, you're listening to Wellness on Demand.
You've been listening to Wellness on Demand with Garvin Reid. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.wellnessod.com.